What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode on Code with Annie. And this is a new playlist which is going to be dealing with concurrency and multithreading in Java. And as promised, this playlist is now starting, and this is going to be the first video on this playlist, which is on the overview of concurrency and multithreading in Java. Also, on a special note, this is going to be the first trilingual series in my channel. Trilingual meaning this particular playlist, which I'm recording right now in English, will also be available in Hindi and Tamil versions as well. So this is a very first attempt of its kind in a single channel with 3 languages, and I'm not sure how this is going to pan out, but I want you guys to tell me in the comment section if you feel this is a good approach and whether the understandability increases with distributing it across multiple languages. It is the same content but going to be in 2 more languages, Hindi and Tamil. So it's going to be called as the series, THE, which means Tamil, Hindi and English, and concurrency and multithreading is going to be a the series of playlist. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started with the overview of concurrency and multithreading in Java. So before we even start looking at this one, I want you guys to have a fairly basic idea of Java. So if you already have it, you can start along with this video. But if you do not, I highly urge you to watch the fundamentals of Java video on my channel. There is a playlist with 32 videos dedicated, and you can take a look at that. I will leave a link in the description below, so you can take a look at that. Otherwise, if you have already got some conceptual knowledge of Java, or you're already working on Java, then feel free to continue watching this video, because this entire playlist is going to talk about multithreading using Java programming language. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started. What is concurrency and multithreading in Java? So in the world of programming, right, there are concepts called threads. Okay, now threads is a very broad terminology. So, and when you look at the definition of threads, they'll say that it is a lightweight process. Okay, however, do note that this explanation by itself does not tell you many things about what a thread is capable of or what its purpose is all about. Okay, so threads are small units of tasks that can be executed parallelly, sequentially, or concurrently. Okay, they will be able to perform some activity for you, and they will be helping you to complete something much faster than intended. Okay, every process. So what is a process first? So process is nothing but whenever you start an application, right? If you're using a Windows laptop, if you open Chrome, Chrome.exe is a process. Okay, open IntelliJ is a process. Okay, any application that you open in your system or anything that makes your operating system running is a process behind the scene. Okay, and that process will be executing as long as the application is alive or active. For example, in this case, we have a Sublime text process, and we also have the Voco screen recorder process that is running in the background, because these 2 operations are something that is actively running on my screen. Okay, so every application is backed by the process of that application, right? And that basically tells us what a process is all about. And within the process, there can be multiple threads basically. So threads, in essence, that is the reason why they are called as a lightweight process, because every process, when you spawn a new one, that is when you create a new process, it will take some memory from your RAM and start running on that. Okay, it will utilize some RAM memory. A thread which runs within the process will share that memory. Okay, so let's say one process has 5 threads within it. Okay, all 5 threads will share the same memory that is allocated to the process. They will all reuse the memory, and they'll keep running and executing whatever they are doing independently. Okay, that is the advantage of using a thread, right? A thread will speed up the task but also not increase the memory that the process is consuming. So this is one of the key differences between threads and processes. And a real-time example would be when you open your Chrome browser, right? As soon as you open the Chrome browser, that's a new process. But as soon as you open multiple tabs in your Chrome browser, each tab is a new process basically. So what happens when you have 100 tabs? You have 100 processes, 101 basically, including Chrome, that is spun. So you have close to that many processes running, which is the reason why Chrome consumes or hogs a lot of memory, right? It takes a lot of RAM memory. The reason is all of them are processes. As opposed to this one, if you take Firefox browser and you open that, the browser operation itself is a process, but as soon as you open tabs in the Firefox browser, it will be a thread. So up to 4 tabs, I think, if I'm not wrong, is a thread, and post that, the existing threads are reused again and again as you create more tabs, which is the reason why Firefox in general is faster and less memory consuming as compared to Chrome. One of the reasons why it's faster than Chrome. So it is the only browser that, as far as I know, is implemented using the multi-threading concept with respect to multiple tabs that you open. Okay. So that's a real world use case example I'm giving you. You can check the speed and memory consumption by yourself by opening both the browsers and running them in parallel, and you can see a significant difference in the memory. Okay. Now, this is the very fundamental thing that I've spoken about: threads, process, and a real-time example. Now, why do we have to consider the executions here, right? So we have threads and we know that they will all execute multiple things at the same time and they'll get the job done, right? But how they do that and how it varies from a sequential execution is something that you have to see. So we'll talk about 4 executions here. We'll talk about sequential, concurrent, parallel, concurrent with parallel. For this one, I have already seen an example somewhere which I felt was very good and apt to be spoken about here. So I'll talk about this example in detail so that it will help you clarify all the 4 types. Let's say that you are an employee of a company who is working on creating a presentation for your company. Okay. Now, when you're creating that presentation, right, you also have a passport job, that's passport renewal task that is going to happen on the same day. So you have to go to the passport office, get your passport verified and renewed, and then you have to also work on your presentation. One way that you can do that is you go to the passport office in the morning, you wait in the line, you wait for your turn, you get the passport renewed, and then you come back home and you work on your presentation, finish that also. So that's called sequential execution because you do it one after the other. You go to the passport office, finish that job, and then you finish your presentation. So that is sequential, one after another. Concurrent means, let's say you go to the passport office, but what you do is you take the laptop with you for the presentation. So while you're in the waiting area, you start doing your presentation, and by the time your waiting completes, you're almost done with the presentation, and then your turn comes up for passport renewal. You finish that, you pause the presentation work, you finish that, and then you come back and resume the presentation work, and you'll be done in 1 or 2 hours after you return from the passport office. So that saves a lot of time, right? As opposed to the sequential execution where you spend the entire time in passport office and come back home and work 5 to 6 hours on the presentation. Since you were able to do both the presentation and the passport office at the same time by interchanging or pausing and switching to another thing, right? That's called as context switching. Okay. So I'm saying that same person works on presentation and renews passport. Works on the presentation when he is waiting on the passport renewal process, and as soon as his turn comes, he pauses this work and continues on renewing the passport. This is called as concurrent execution by the same person. Okay. So this also saves a lot of time, right? Now let's look at the third concept, which is parallel execution. So what I'm saying is, now instead of me doing this job, right, working on the presentation and also trying to renew my passport at the same time, what I'm saying is, let me assign someone to do the presentation for me. Okay. So assistant 1 will work on presentation and I will renew the passport. Okay. So what will happen is, as soon as I leave for the passport office, I'll ask my assistant to start working on the presentation. So he will start working on it and I will be waiting in line and trying to renew the passport. By the time I come home, this guy would have completed the presentation almost, and he will send the draft. I will take a look at it, I'll make some corrections, and I'll be done in an hour or 2 maximum. Right? In this process, you have to note that the assistant will never call me for asking any clarification when I'm in the passport office. He is intelligent enough to make sure that the presentation is done without any help from my side. Now that is called as parallel execution. So thread 1 will work on one task while thread 2 will work on another task, and both of them will be able to work independently of each other and complete a particular task. Okay, they start at the same time, meaning I start to the passport office at the same time he starts working on the presentation, and both of us will be done by the time we reach home. I mean, by the time I reach home, he will also be done. So that is parallel execution. Now there is a special case called concurrent with parallel. Now imagine what this will look like. Now I go to the office, but I go to the passport office, that is, but I carry the laptop with me. Okay, now I ask my assistant also to begin working on the presentation. So I go to the passport office and he then starts working on the presentation, and as he does the presentation, I'm able to also see what he's working on. Okay, and when I see what he's working on, I'm able to suggest some edits to it, and he's making the corrections, because I don't have to do the entire correction and editing after I come back from the passport office, but instead when I'm waiting in the line, I ask him to do some rectifications, because I'm able to see his work live on a shared Google Sheet, for example. Okay, so what will happen is this particular person will work, but I will also be able to monitor what he's working on. Okay, and then be able to do the necessary corrections. So by the time I reach home from the passport office, I'll only have to take a 15 minutes look at that presentation, finalize and send it across. So assistant and I work in tandem while I wait at passport office. Right? So this is called as concurrent with parallel execution. Notice the difference here. In parallel, this guy will never call me or ask my support, whereas in concurrent with parallel, I also lend my support to the assistant as and when required while waiting at the passport office when I'm free. So this is called as concurrent with parallel execution. The assistant and I are actually in the world of Java. These are going to be two different threads. These are going to be threads. This is a single thread that can pause itself and continue with something else. Then once this job is done, it will pause this one, come back and work on this one. So that is a single threaded concurrent execution. Sequential is one task completed, then another task is completed, one after the other. So that's it for this particular video, and this is the explanation I wanted to give you guys in detail. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to CodeWithAni if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys with more videos on concurrency and multithreading. Alright, so bye bye.